Sudarshanam Vande Samay Sagram Sadar Jajinin. Okay, so I've completed a vulnerability research. It's quite late for me to do so, but still, the vulnerability that I've completed research on is the CVE 2024-23897, which is the Jenkins arbitrary file-read vulnerability. These were the researches that I read. There were more, but these three were the ones that made my picture much clear. And this is my version of the research. And the first one being the Jenkins official security advisory, the second one being the Sai Pharma Institute's research, and the third one being the Trend Micros. The research I have also published on my own page, which is the CVE Explained page, where I publish multiple researches. Right. Here is the research over there. We will delve into the code itself and we will look how the flow goes. So the attacker makes two post requests, one being the upload request and second one being the request, where the upload data will be executed and the result will be downloaded, so that one can see what command actually he has executed, and the response itself as we'll get the response from the server. Okay, so why these two post requests are being done, why two only, and what is the upload data, we'll get into it all. But first let's see how the Jenkins Jenkins actually handles requests, post requests, right? So these were the methods that were used, which started a domino effect, which led to this catastrophe. The first one being the CLI crumb execution, right? This method is responsible for validating the endpoint. It also does the CSRF it also checks the CSRF tokens and CSR, so that the cross-site request forgery can't happen. And this is the code over here for it. Let me see, wait a second. This is the CLI crumb execution. It makes the CSRF protection is enabled over here. This is the code. This is the code for the Jenkins one, the Jenkins which is vulnerable 2.4.2.441. So the first method checks whether the endpoint is valid or not via the process method, right? And then comes the second method, the full duplex HTTP request. This handles the request as well as a response. Now how does it handle the request and response? Via three methods, mainly the generate response method, which eventually calls the download and upload method. The two post requests that we saw here are being handled by this particular method. The first one being the for example, let's just say we did the upload request first. So our request would go after getting validated over here, and to the generate response one, where it will look for, is it where the header is for upload or where the header is for download, right? The headers will tell which method to be called next, and the header for it is side header. If the side header has the upload value, the upload method would be called, and if the side header is the download value, the download request would be called. So let's see the method itself. Alright, this is the method over here, right? As you can see, if the request header side has the value download, then kindly please call the download one, the service.download, right? And if the side is the upload one, then it will call the upload one, right? Try the upload one. Okay, the request and response are the two arguments over here, right? So the requests are being handled by this method. Now there comes the plain CLI protocol, where it just reads the frames, the payloads that we put over there. It would handle it according to the length, and then comes the main method, the hero of our picture, which made this vulnerability happen, the CLI command method. So the CLI command method actually has a vulnerable library which is being referenced over here, which is the args4j library, right? And args4j library has a vulnerable method which is the command line parser method. This is the method for this library, right? Now let me tell you, CLI command.java contains this method right over here, because I have read the code for so many times that I know where it is. This is the method over here, and this particular method has um, one big hell of a code which is making this all possible. Let's delve into it finally. So after all these series of method, the final method which is called is this one, right? And this method, let's look into the method where it gets called everything over here. Look at the expanded files one. Now this method is used for getting the contents of the file. Now how does it get the contents of the file? Via this particular logic implemented over here. Now which logic, what does this code do? I don't understand it. Let me narrow it down more further, right? So I have written what does this code do. For each element, for every particular element, if the character starts with @ like for example, if I say @ /etc / /passwd, right? So this would be treated it as a file reference, which means that I want to call a file. I want to call a file which is stored onto the server, and after that @ comes the absolute path of that file, right? So then it will remove the @, right? If the arg start with @, it will remove the @, which means that it will not take the 0th substring, but will start the substring from the first letter. Like for example, if the string is @ /etc / passwd, then kindly please start with here, right? This is the 0th letter, this is the first letter, and first letter onwards I would want to get the file. I would want to get the file, right? So this is what the result would do. So this will be the file. If the file exists, kindly please add the contents of the file to the result array, right? Right. So now we know that this particular function actually exploits the which can be exploited due to the fact that there is no authentication over here and this is such an old library that it shouldn't be used at the first place. So these two methods led to this whole blunder, right? Now how do I exploit it? So I would like to show you with the help of this machine called builder by hackthebox, which can be exploited via 3 ways. Now in the start of this vulnerability, I told you the exploitation is possible via HTTP, via CLI, and via WebSockets. Now why did I say so? I said so this because Jenkins provides us with a particular CLI jar file which can act as a CLI agent for us to communicate with Jenkins, right? It can act as an agent so that we can communicate with Jenkins and send commands to it over there. Now I have this particular wait a second, I have this particular over here, right? Let me set up my wait a second. I'll exploit it right away, right? Right. We are getting the ping. So this particular CLI, we can access it with the help of Jenkins itself. The Jenkins has this CLI preloaded on whenever you set up a Jenkins. So I have already done my nmap over here. Now if you want to see the scan, this is the custom tool that I made in order to scan so fast, so that while nmap runs in the background, this can give me the ports. So we can right over see that the port 2020 is open, and after some time it will also tell me that the port 88 is open. I made this so that I just if I just want the ports itself, I can get the port. Okay, so it told me the port 80 is open. Now I'm just going to cancel it because I got what I wanted. Now whenever I look for port 8080 over here, I can see that there is a Jenkins running. Wait a second, see, and the Jenkins has the version 2.4441. Now what I can do is, I know that the Jenkins has a CLI one jar over here, which is which I can download it. So I downloaded it. It's right over here, right? You can see this, right? Now what I will do is, I will try to say that before writing this, let me just fire up my Wireshark so that I can tell you guys that whatever is happening is live, and we get to exploit it, right? So let's see, java -jar. I have the preloaded over here. I asked the help one, and I told @etc/passwd, right? So let's see if we get something, right? Okay, see, as you guys can see, there are too many arguments, and in the arguments, in the error itself, it tells me how like what the actual content of the file is, right? Yeah, we can see it. Now when we look, whenever we look at the packets itself, let me tell you. mm, mm, Wait a second, let me tell you right over here. Our packet would have been gone. Where is the source? This is our IP. Let's see what is our IP. 1428. First we 1428. Okay, so this is our request over here. As you can see, /CLI/WS connect, we connected, right? It is taking a HTTP request, but I want the WebSockets one. Would it be here? Alright, this is the response. This is the response from the from the victim server to us. Like, they're saying that, okay, this is the arguments that you wanted. As you can see, the arguments are reflected over here as the data itself. The data is argument itself, which can tell that etc passwd is there and its contents are over here. Now I'm just looking for the argument that we sent. Wait a second. Why am I not getting? Because due to the fact that they look like this. Whenever I send the because I wanted to look for this particular source over here and this particular destination, right? And this is the WebSocket. We are talking via WebSocket, and the protocol we can also do it via HTTP. Oh, sorry. So our arguments looks like this, and the result look like this. Now what I can do is, since I know that I can read the file, I can read the sensitive files also. Now what kind of sensitive files? I know that Jenkins has a particular folder where the Jenkins has this particular config file which contains the password. Now since I have this already over here, I'm just going to show you how this particular exploit works, because the video is going to be too long, then I won't be able to upload it. We can see the password over here. We can see the password list, and this is the hash, right? This is the hash that I wanted to show you, right? Since it is a bcrypt hash, it can be pretty easily cracked by hashcat, right? I have it over here. Wait a second, I guess it's cracked. Alright, all hashes are found in a port file or empty entry -show to display them. -show. Wait. See, and the hash is the princess, right? So I get to log in as princess itself. So this can be the impact of the vulnerability itself. This is how we tapped into the code. These were the methods that were responsible for such vulnerability, and I also have my exploit over here, right? I make exploit for these vulnerabilities. These exploits are written by me, on Python and one on C. The C exploit is not by me, it's the kernel exploit. I just used it, but it's not mine. So, but the Python ones are all mine. So, thank you for sticking this long. अहिंसा परमो धर्म की जय.